is the exchange student that you have like a 3-week affair with.
Fake. We can see that you don't have pants on.
Somebody hit somebody with a pie. Do something.
Giovanni yelling we're out of time as we go off the air.
Giovanni yelling a lot of things tonight.
And welcome to the Mark It Down podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Mark It Down podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, and I'm on the wrong side. Joined this week by James Gasanti, back here once again to review another episode of AEW Dynamite. I just noticed James's lower third, which made me chuckle. But we're going to start in the middle of the show, where we had Swerve Strickland calling out Jon Moxley. So Swerve came down to the ring and, as I said, called out Jon Moxley, but specifically Moxley, not the Death Riders if Moxley has the balls to do so. And Moxley obliges and comes out, for the time being, alone. Two men then step to each other in the ring, and Swerve starts things off by saying that he's been allowing this shit to go on for too long. Swerve asked what has happened to Moxley lately, saying he used to be revered in AEW, as was the AEW championship, but now he hides behind people like Claudio, Yuta, Pac, and even Marina Shafir. Mox has the nerve to say nobody in the back wants to be champion, when Swerve says it is indeed Moxley who doesn't deserve to be champ. And in fact, Swerve thinks it's why Moxley hides the title in the briefcase, because he can't stand to see himself carrying it on his shoulder anymore. And now, every way in which people used to describe Jon Moxley, they use those adjectives to describe Swerve. At this point, as Swerve finishes up what he's saying, Claudio sneaks in behind Prince Nana, who is outside the ring, and it takes a minute as the crowd's tension builds for Swerve to slowly turn around and see Claudio, and the two men wait for a solid 30 seconds before Moxley says everything's cool, and Claudio just kind of hovers behind Nana, who's frozen in fear. Moxley then says it's actually going to be Swerve or Swerve at Dynasty, questioning who and what Swerve really is. Moxley thinks he knows what Swerve could be, but so far he's been disappointed as he thinks Swerve hasn't lived up to that potential. However, at Dynasty, Moxley is going to give him a chance to reach that potential, but what is Swerve willing to do for it? And not just what is he willing to do at Dynasty, but what is he willing to do past then, months and years into this, when he wakes up and he's in pain and he doesn't want to move? Will Swerve continue to push through that pain and do what he has to do? And he declares that, at least to him, Swerve hasn't suffered enough yet. Apparently, he didn't watch the Hangman feud. But Swerve will indeed suffer at Dynasty. Mox then says that his sport has been taken over by billionaires and Hollywood agencies and kids looking at life through an Instagram filter who don't know their ass from their elbow or something to that effect. But Swerve is someone who actually gives him hope. But he's not just going to hand things over to Swerve. He's going to make Swerve earn it, which should be no problem for the most dangerous man in AEW. And at this point, the two men begin to circle each other so that Swerve's back is to the stage, and Marina Shafir comes out carrying a crowbar. However, she is met at the apron by a lead pipe wielding Willow Nightingale. A lot of W's in there. Swerve then chuckles. What's up? You know it. Swerve then chuckles and asks Moxley's what's wrong, and if it's a little uncomfortable for Mox to be going against somebody who's smarter than him. Swerve then says that Moxley talks a lot about unscripted violence, but says he is violence. Mox may have bled pints and been in Texas death matches, but Swerve has bled buckets and actually won Texas death matches.
Great line.
So on April 6th, he's going to take back his title and continue to lead AEW into the Dynasty era, while Mox can keep playing Jon Moxley on TV.
Burn.
Moxley then calls Claudio off and Marina as well, and the three of them begin making their way into the crowd. But however, Marina doubles back, and she goes and she pulls Willow Nightingale off of the apron, so then Willow goes first face first off of it, first face too, and then the two of them begin brawling until Nana and Claudio eventually break it up. With Claudio literally, he had the briefcase, literally handing the briefcase to Moxley so he could throw Marina over his shoulder, kicking and screaming, and carry her out. And then later in the night, during the main event, it is announced that Jon Moxley and Marina Shafir will face off against Swerve Strickland and Will Nightingale in a mixed tag match next week on Dynamite. So, James, a lot happened in this. Personally, I think Swerve might have gotten the best out of Moxley.
Yes.
Moxley was great here, and he did a great job of putting over Swerve while still being like, I see potential in you. And the potential, I think, of what Moxley wanted out of this run with the Death Riders, which is finally. But Swerve, I think, is going to get all the talking points here with those last few lines about bleeding buckets and winning Texas death matches, and the John Cena reference he made about Moxley playing Moxley on TV. Yeah. So great stuff out of both men here. I really liked it. But I think Swerve is probably going to be the person people consider the winner in this confrontation.
No, I think people would be right. I'd say this is the deepest we've actually gotten into Moxley's character since the Death Rider stuff has started. I'd say every promo, every interaction have all been very vague, have all been very cryptic. This is the first time somebody actually, to Mox's face, questioned him. What's going on with you? You used to be Jon Moxley. People used to love you. What are you doing?
To revere him, I believe, was the word he used.
No, and it's an appropriate word. So it's the first time we've really seen it. And I liked that I don't want to say it rattled Mox, but you could see he was slightly caught off guard by it. So I really, really enjoyed that. And Swerve is the guy to do that. There are very few people that believably could do that. And Swerve is at the top of the list in AEW. So really fun interaction between these two guys. I needed a little bit of crow because I said either last week or 2 weeks ago, I was betting on the fact that Willow was done with this story. She wasn't going to get involved any further. Yet here we are. She's involved. She is Swerve's backup. So I think that's really cool. The Nana Claudio stuff was a little weird. I don't know. Like it felt like I don't. It felt like I missed something, but whatever. Like I got it. I got it. I'm not trying to nitpick or anything. It just I think it went on just a couple seconds too long.
Oh, like that pause there.
Yeah. So it was a fun little stalemate, and I liked the very end of it that it was Willow and Marina who were going at it. You know, it wasn't Swerve and Mox going at it. It was Marina and Willow, which I thought was a fun little touch on the segment. So this is the Swerve that we all want to see. Main event Swerve. Top guy Swerve.
I think main event is taken, but
you know what I mean, though. Main man Swerve. And it's a shame because I'm fairly certain he's losing. Like I'm pretty confident that he's losing.
I'm slightly on the fence about it after this promo, but I think he's going to as well.
But that said, this is probably the most nail-biting matchup Mox is going to have so far, or will have had so far. So very excited for Dynasty. Very excited that this feud is living up to the potential we know it could, but kind of a bummer that it just didn't have a little more time to marinate, in my opinion.
Yeah, this Dynasty is coming real quick off of Revolution. It feels like I think it's a month, and we're so used to AEW feuds having a lot of time to simmer before they truly heat up, that this one's going, we're jumping right in the deep end with this one, not to combine water metaphors there. But I loved what Swerve did, and like I said, like this is kind of everything I feel like we've wanted out of the Death Riders to begin with people calling out Moxley on his hypocrisies and falling in the way that he has to whatever this is, and Moxley challenging people to step up and be the type of wrestlers he wants them to be, especially a guy like Swerve, who he sees, I think, a lot of himself in. And honestly, I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
And not these people, the people he called out for being, he says billionaires, and I don't know if he's calling Toni out or not, but you could also look over at TKO too, because you have stuff like that. Hollywood agencies is definitely, I think, a shot at TKO and maybe even The Rock. And, and then, people with the Instagram filters, that's just every friggin' idiot on the internet at this point, except me. So I think like he is finally finding somebody who he deems nearly worthy enough to beat him.
Yeah.
But he's going to make Swerve earn it. Now, whether or not Swerve can do that is a different story. But this is what shit should have been for the last 8 months, wherever long Moxley has had the title, or at least has formed the Death Riders. And we saw it a bit in the beginning, but they clearly lost their way in the middle there.
Yeah.
And the Copeland stuff was very good outside of, I think, the match at Revolution and the ending last week. But for the most part, we thought it was better before it killed any goodwill it had.
Yeah.
But there's still a tiny bit of momentum with the Death Riders again. So I'm holding out hope Moxley can finish this title reign strong. And I think this is a good sign that he has a chance of doing that.
I hope so. I've seen, and we've talked about it a little bit here and there, that it's a little unfair, I think, how people have been so harshly judging Jon Moxley, the performer. A lot of people are criticizing Jon Moxley, the performer, and I don't think this is accurate. I don't think Mox is the problem. Yeah, I can say whether, hello, Henny.
I was wondering if it was the dog or the cat. It's the cat. Henny parents drink.
I can say that I'm not thrilled with this storyline, and I wish it was going in different places. And maybe it is Mox who's sort of at the forefront of pushing this story. But overall, like I still care about Mox. I'm still invested in Mox, the character. I just don't think this was it. And I don't fully blame him with the Darby of it all, the Brian of it all, the stop and go with this story, because we've been saying since the beginning, it felt like something else was supposed to happen that just didn't happen. Whether that was Shane McMahon or a higher power of any sort, and it just never came to be, I don't know. But all in, I'm still all in on Mox.
For all in. Yeah, no, I'm the same way. Like, I can dislike what he's maybe, the booking around Moxley, but I think you can't argue that he hasn't executed all of this very well in terms of promos and the wrestling and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because even if you didn't like the match at Revolution, and we sure didn't, it wasn't a poorly executed match. It was just boring as shit.
Yeah.
So
the unfortunate truth.
Yeah, and there's a big difference between those two things, I think. So, yeah, it's hard to blame Moxley for any of this. And I have a hard time blaming any of the Death Riders either. I think Claudio, Pac, and Marina and Wheeler have all played their roles beautifully. It's just the way this has been written hasn't been great up until recently, and then the payoffs for some recently good writing haven't been there. So that's that. And like I said, hopefully it can come back around and they can finish strong. I did want to duck into the comments. We got a lot of people. Well, we have a lot of Maria. As we say hi to Maria, she's saying it's time to like the views for another explosive Dynamite review. And she was very thrilled with this segment. Although she still believes that Swerve needs to win the title and eliminate the trash Death Riders angle. It's saying I just like any word with the word revenant. I mean, you're not wrong. They're usually pretty good words. Also mentioning that's 2 weeks in a row we've had a women's pull-apart brawl, which is kind of cool. There was 2 pull-apart brawls tonight in general. We had both this one and a bit earlier, although it was mostly during commercial. Hobbs and Davis apparently had a big pull-apart.
Of all the people.
Yeah, meat. There was a little extra meat for the crowd while they were in commercial.
And it's all in Davis's ass, apparently.
And then, you know what else? Saying the idea of the Death Riders he was okay with, but they were being cowardly heels, which made it cringe and kind of stupid. And then he says he's never going to use the word cringe again because it's a lame word. I would agree. It's not my favorite word.
But sometimes it's appropriate.
Yeah,
sometimes
like if you're describing, if you're describing Michael Scott, I think it's appropriate.
Yes, well said.
Yeah, I'm gonna do things a little out of order here, James, because I know it wants to talk a lot about the main event, so I'm gonna jump down to there, and we can get into the rest of the show. The main event was Timeless Toni Storm and Thunder Rosa, aka Thunder Tits.
Before we get into the main event, why don't we just do the segment? Like the backstage promo.
Okay, yeah. So this was earlier in the show. Toni and Thunder were being interviewed by Renee Paquette, and she asked about their main event match, obviously against Bayne and Ford. And Thunder says they better be on the same page as the last time they worked together. Toni knocked her out and then tried to rub her face paint off. Toni says a lot of mistakes were made in the heat of battle, and Thunder responds that just so there are no mistakes now, she is coming for what she never lost, gesturing towards the AEW Women's Championship. Toni says enough of this banter. I think she might have said enough of this gay banter, but I'm not entirely sure. Okay. I didn't want to say that unless I wasn't positive. But she called out Bayne and Ford, saying they better strap up because it's going to be a bumpy ride against the team of Thunder Tits. And Rosa is just like, what the hell? Because she's wearing a Thunderstorm shirt, and she like pulled apart her jacket to show it off. She's like, that's not the name. Tony's like, it is now. And then everybody in St. Paul started chanting Thunder Tits. So
they really, and you could hear commentary not know how to handle it. But yeah,
and one of them went, oh God, here we go. It might have been Shivani. But that led to the main event later in the show, as I mentioned, which was Storm and Rosa facing off against Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford. Towards the end of this match, after Bayne took out Rose with a Fate's Descent, her and Toni were left one-on-one, and after Toni escaped a Fate's Descent of her own, she hit a hip attack in the corner, but Bayne immediately popped back up, much to the horror of Toni Storm.
Yep.
Ford then used this distraction to get in the ring and grab Toni from behind, but when Bayne came up to land a pump kick or a big boot or whatever it was on Toni, Toni ducked it, and that knocked Ford out of the ring. Toni then used a distraction to go for a roll-up, but Bayne kicked out. So Toni, after laying in some shots to the back of Bayne's neck, hit the rope, and then Bayne caught her, dropped her with a Fate's Descent, and pinned the AEW Women's Champion for the win. After the match, we saw a shot of Thunder meeting Toni in the corner, who was flabbergasted at the loss. And then when Toni mentioned to Thunder that they lost, Toni was pretty incredulous. So Jim, this was a good match. It went for a while, and especially because a lot of these matches went long tonight, which I liked, but it also made the show. What did it end at, like 10-10 over here?
I think the match ended at 10:07. Maybe it ended at like 10:10 overall.
Yeah, so this was long, but it was good. But I think the big story coming out of this is Bayne pinning the champion.
Yes, I'm really fascinated with how this is being booked. Like, all signs point to Toni retaining because of how dominant Megan Bayne has been throughout all of this and how imposing they're presenting her to be. So by all accounts, it should be Toni conquering that. I wouldn't hate it, though, if Megan actually won.
I mean, I saw somebody mention is she getting the Lesnar push, and I was like, she has the Lesnar move.
I think you can count on one hand how many people have pinned Timeless Toni Storm, and I think one hand is more than you need. It's Mariah. That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Now, I mean, we're not counting rookie Toni Storm as Timeless Toni Storm.
Yeah, no,
right?
two different people.
Yeah.
Two different people. But still, like, that's pretty massive. So to get a win over her, that's huge. Even if you don't get the title at the pay-per-view, that's still quite the feather in your cap. They told a great story up in this matchup, which was Toni is kind of afraid of Mariah. She understands the threat that Megan. She understands the threat that Megan Bayne presents to her. No matter what she did to her, she couldn't really put her down. It took running into the steel steps on the outside, leading into a big tornado DDT on the outside to actually take Megan Bayne off of her feet. So I like this concept of the big bad monster that Megan Bayne is being presented as, like that horror movie threat that you just can't escape, you can't run away from. Yeah, you know it. Toni pinned, but I like it. Bayne as a force she has to overcome. That's exactly it. She is a Michael Myers. She is a Jason Voorhees, like big imposing threat that Toni has to survive. And win or lose, it's a great presentation for Megan Bayne. So I'm all in on this. Obviously, the rules of opposite momentum don't apply until the last thing we see. So it doesn't matter that Megan got the big pin on Toni. So let's see what happens next Wednesday. But I'm not opposed to Megan Bayne being the AEW Women's Champion.
I think the only reason they probably won't do it is just because Toni is so popular right now. And now that the Mariah May story has finished, it I think opens up a whole lot of opportunities for her to tell other stories.
Yeah.
But Bayne is obviously being given a massive push here. She hasn't lost since she's been in the company. She's barely been off of her feet since she's been in the company. I think maybe she got taken off last week by Statlander. And then this week, obviously, as you mentioned, it took the stairs and a tornado DDT on the outside to get her down again. So she has been looking great. She's also the type of woman I'm cool with this happening with because she has the look and she has the build and she can back it up too. Yeah, we've been, obviously, we say this every week. We've been huge fans of her since we saw her at House of Glory. And so I know this is the type of person that can handle this type of push. So I've been very happy with her booking. I think it's been very smart. I'm a little surprised she's going for the title this quickly, but I'm with you. I don't have a problem with it. And if she did win the title, awesome. She might have to drop the House of Glory title, but it'd still be really cool if she just got slingshotted that fast. So I think there was a great story told in this match, both with Bayne and Toni, and I think Thunder and Penelope did great jobs supporting characters.
I don't want to undersell them. I feel like something bigger might be brewing with Thunder down the road.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but when Toni won the title the first time, and it was initially that interim championship, that like regular Toni Storm, you know?
Yeah.
Toni Storm. When she initially won it, it was an interim championship because Thunder was hurt.
Yep. And I was that Toni or was that Outcast Toni?
It was Outcast Toni. It wasn't Timeless Toni. It was regular.
Because I was going to say, we saw Jamie Hayter beat her for the title.
You know, it wasn't even Outcast Toni because she was teaming with Thunder.
Was she?
Thunderstorm was a thing, and it was setting up for the match between the two.
Maybe I was just conflating the two things, but yeah.
It's basically the same. You're not wrong. But then when Toni won it, it eventually just became an actual recognized reign because Thunder never came back to defend it. They just stripped her of the title.
Well, that's what I was like. Didn't it happen when Jamie beat her for the title?
When it was recognized?
Yeah.
I mean, regardless, she was teaming with Thunder. Thunderstorm happened while Thunder was champion and Toni was getting set to challenge her for it.
Okay. Oh, that's what you're saying. Yeah. All right. Because then I was just like, yeah, Toni won it. Yeah, because Thunder was supposed to defend it against Toni, but she got pulled, and it was in the four-way with Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, Shida, and Hayter. And then the Rosa officially forfeited the title on November 23rd, which was after Storm lost it to Jamie Hayter. at Full Gear in 2022. And then they retroactively made Tony's reign a real one instead of just an interim one, and then made Hater's a recognized title as well. So that, yeah, but that was Outcast Tony. That was my point.
But regardless of any of that, because we diverged from the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, I think she became Outcast Tony like in the middle there somewhere.
And that's fair. Again, not important. No, it's okay. It's okay. I feel it leaving my brain, the point I'm trying to make. Toni did a media scrum where she kind of called out Thunder, saying how funny that you're not feeling good enough to defend the championship when it's my turn to challenge for it. And I remember it kind of raising some eyebrows at the time when she said it.
Yeah, because there was all that stuff with with Britt Baker too, like, and how they didn't like each other.
Well, more than anything, there were a lot of rumors at that point that Thunder, and this is proven to be false, but there were a lot of rumors at that point that Thunder was exaggerating the severity of her injury.
Right, which obviously was not.
Which she was not. It's just she did not want to defend the title and lose the title. That was the rumor. That was the gossip going around. And again, proven to not be true. But I think there is a lot of room for them to get a little dirty with this feud. There is room for them to get a little
work shoot.
Yeah, work shoot it a little bit. So we'll see if they ever get there. I weirdly, like, my time of super supporting Thunder feels like it's over. I don't know why. I'm not clamoring for her to win the title again, and I think it's because of how poor the first title reign was. So I don't know, but I am here for a resurgence for her. She has felt like an afterthought since she's come back. Other than the very good feud with Deonna Purrazzo, she has done nothing of real note since returning, in my opinion.
Yeah. She also fought Mariah for the title, and there was a graveyard match or whatever it was.
But it just didn't feel like it wasn't like I can't go back to it much and be like, wow, how great was this feud, you know?
Yeah, it was okay. I feel like a lot of that happened on Collision because Thunder's been a real Collision cowboy since she's been back.
Yeah.
To borrow a phrase that was used tonight. And I feel like maybe that's why you just haven't been that much behind her, just because we haven't really seen her here on Dynamite too much. So she's being featured more on Dynamite now, and hopefully she can build up some more momentum again. But Collision's, I know I say this, Collision's a really good show. It's just on Saturday we don't watch it because we're busy. So, hopefully now that she's on Dynamite, she can help build up her credulous, I guess, again, with us here, because we just haven't seen her for a while. And to all of your point, James, what's saying, they did give the Thunder, the camera shots of Thunder overreacting to the loss. So it looks like there's something, it's probably on the back burner, but I think there's something starting to cook there a little bit.
We shall see. We shall see.
Also, I did really like at the end of the match, Bayne is, having her hand raised and everything, and then Ford just comes up and hugs her. Bayne's like, "The fuck are you doing?" She's like, "All right, yeah, we won, whatever." It's like, get off me. And you know what? It made it very happy. So I also wanted to bring up too, making a decent point that'll help you make mine. At least the women's side wasn't, hasn't been cookie cutter, which has been great. Yeah. And something that hasn't been cookie cutter, this is the second week in a row that the women have main evented Dynamite.
Yeah.
So really good on you, Tony Khan.
Yeah, it really feels like he's trying to make up for what happened at the pay-per-view.
Yeah. Really does. That, or he just really likes Bayne, and I cannot blame him.
Can't blame him in the slightest.
Nope. All right, let's head back all the way to the top of the card. We open the show with Kenny Omega facing off against Blake Christian, who I believe is mostly being a Ring of Honor guy until recently. But before we get into the match, James, did you see the promo package for this match that they put out on?
Hilarious. It was hilarious.
For those of you who didn't see it, it was like this big Kenny Omega hype package. He's back. He's got the International Championship. Kenny Omega, the god of pro wrestling. and Blake Christian are facing Kenny Omega tonight on Dynamite. Like, it was such a random little and Blake Christian. It was so unserious. It was great.
Yep.
Anyway, Kenny beat Christian in about 5 minutes. Christian got in some offense. They gave him a little hype package before he got to the ring too, which I thought was cool. It looks like he's doing a really great job on Collision, and he looks like he's got a really cool moveset. That inverted tope he does is sick. I don't know how he doesn't break his neck every time. But after he did that and got in like 2 more punches, Kenny hit him with a couple of Snapdragons, a V-trigger, and a one-winged angel, and got the dub.
Yep. It was very dominant from Kenny.
Yeah.
Just a little bit on Blake Christian. Yes, he's a primarily Ring of Honor guy. And from the moment Ring of Honor, like new Ring of Honor has been established, he's been around the product, but he's never really been a name to follow in like as a solo guy. It wasn't until around Final Battle and the tournament that he participated in that he really started to pick things up. So basically since December to now, we've been seeing a nice little boost in Blake Christian. So it's nice that he had this matchup. But he was absolutely the sacrificial lamb for Kenny here.
Yeah.
This was Kenny, by God, Omega, just absolutely dominating. And you have to like question the logic a little bit where it's like, well, Kenny's going to be in a tournament. Like he's facing the tournament winners on Sunday or in a week from now. Why is this guy getting a match with Kenny? But Kenny kind of said it at the end of the match during his promo. He wants to wrestle as much as he can. So I have no problems with it. Blake was a good guy for it. Got a question, and please correct me if I'm wrong. Blake was obviously playing the heel in this match. He was being a smarmy kind of prick guy, mocking Kenny, giving him the finger, everything. Just gonna say, maybe don't put your hand down your pants and then rub your hand on your face. Maybe. Like, he put his hand down his crotch, did the Kenny Omega one thing, and then was just like, oh. And who did that appeal to?
I got nothing. I mean, Jazz had nothing. So
he was caught off guard too.
If Taz has nothing, I got nothing.
Yep. So I don't know what Blake was going for there, but don't do it again. Maybe. You know what? I don't know. I don't know what the kids are into, but I don't do that for me, please.
Oh, they're into something with a toilet right now, so who knows what the kids are into?
Skibbity toilet.
That's what I don't even know. I also want to throw out Christian was actually on the pre-show for Revolution too, so he's been doing a pretty good job recently. Yeah. I think he was on with who was that? Is that Shotty Lee Johnson with him?
I think so.
Because Lee Moriarty is in Shane Taylor Promotions, right?
I believe so. Yes,
and
he's
always
TV champion. I think.
Yeah. Too. Yes. So that is Shotty Lee. So yeah, they face off against I think it was Hologram and Commander.
Cool.
Anyway, though, James, as you mentioned after the match, Kenny got a microphone. He had to make a joke about basically strong arming Tony Khan into letting him wrestle. He was like, "I'll be quick about it," and Tony was like, "Well, all right, if you're gonna be that fast, I guess I have to let you wrestle." Because I do think Kenny just wants reps at this point.
Yeah,
that's probably what it was. He's like, "Look, let me get a 5-minute match, and then I'll do a promo with the guys."
He told him he'd make it quick, and he certainly did tonight.
So after he mentions that, he says it's not going to be quick at Dynasty as he's facing off not only against Ricochet, but someone familiar to him in Speedball Mike Bailey. Speedball then comes out, and after some hilarious pleasantries, Speedball then calls Kenny an inspiration, saying he respects and admires him both as a wrestler and as a person. However, at the pay-per-view, Bailey says he won't hesitate to kick Kenny's head off and take his title. Kenny then begins to respond, but Ricochet appears on the Tron to interrupt. And he is not there because he is at his wedding. And congrats to him and Samantha.
Congrats to him. I don't know about congrats to Samantha, but congrats to him.
Anyway, he's looking forward to defeating quote unquote Cornball and the former Best Bout Machine before walking out with both the girl and the gold. After Ricochet's video ends, Kenny then gets things back on track, congratulating Speedball on joining AEW, but he says he doesn't have time for anything, including new friends. He already has a cat, so he doesn't need any new friends. He doesn't have time for anything, though, except for cementing his legacy, and Bayley and Ricochet are only the next stepping stones in doing so. So this was actually really funny from Kenny.
I enjoyed this so much. I enjoyed this so much.
First time I've heard Speedball talk, I thought he did well, or at least well enough. I don't know how good he is on the mic normally, but he seemed like he's pretty good to me here. Maybe a little patronizing, but I feel like that's also kind of his character because he's such a white meat baby face.
They're not being patronizing. They're simply Canadian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they are. I don't know how to describe Speedball. They're a honorable warrior.
Yeah.
That's the character. And they can be, it might seem disingenuous, but that's just actually who they are. So I love this back and forth. Kenny Omega. Speedball. Congrats.
Thanks.
I thought it was amazing. I thought it was amazing. See, Kenny Omega is not, in my opinion, your traditional promo guy. But that doesn't make him a bad promo. He just doesn't follow the traditional wrestling cadence. And the same thing works with Speedball. So these two bounced off of each other so well.
Considering too, they were in Minnesota. I bet you those people were very used to that type of conversation as well, because the people of the Great White North are usually just as polite as the Canadians.
The Minnesotans,
or at least the Great White North of America. The Great White North is Canada, but Minnesota is our Great White North.
They laughed when Kenny said thanks.
Yeah,
like, that was a loud chuckle.
They also laughed when he mentioned his cat too.
Yeah, when he mentioned, I already have a cat. I don't need more friends. I understand that energy so well. By the way, Kenny,
I think most wrestling fans probably do.
I've got two sleeping here right now.
Where's Danny when you need him?
Right? Seriously. I'm very much looking forward to this. They have 3 ingredients to a great matchup with Kenny, Speedball, and Ricochet. Speedballed. Damn.
Great name for their heel tag team.
Right? I need to just get this across. Speedball is as white meat babyface as you're going to get. He is I love him. He is an incredible wrestler. Very few can go shoeless foot to shoeless foot with him. But he is a plain old babyface. Like, I've seen him on the indies where he plays heel because he tends to wrestle women a lot. But at the same time, I keep saying he or they go by both.
Okay, I was going to double check on that.
Yeah, they go by both. So there's no wrong one. But it's always just the moveset makes them too much of a babyface.
Yeah.
There's no way to really be a heel with that moveset. So I think they have all the ingredients for a great matchup. Kenny, Ricochet, Speedball, Philly's in for a good matchup. And I do want to go. SRS said something really funny. SRS tweeted, you remember when you could tell Kane was going to win because Pyro was on the turnbuckles? I could tell Speedball and Omega weren't going to fight because Speedball wore shoes. So eyes out. If he's wearing shoes, no fighting.
I hope that's a thing.
Right?
That'd be great. Like, he comes down to make a save, but he's ripping his shoes off, hopping on one foot.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Going to the comments real quick. Maria saying that Speedball is winning and shocking everyone. If you have never seen Speedball before, I understand how this feels very sudden and just it's a surprise. But if you've been following Speedball like I have in TNA or on the Indies, this was just a matter of when, not a matter of if, you know? So I'm really glad that the AEW audience is getting to experience Speedball for the first time.
I know of Speedball. You talking about him a lot. Obviously, I hear about a lot about him on Squared Circle and stuff. But this is my first time really watching him. I think I've probably seen him a few times on TNA as well.
Yeah, I'm sure you have.
Yeah, no, he is great in the ring. He has showed me something not that I haven't seen before, but something I just haven't seen out of him yet. So it's been awesome watching him. Maria calling him the modern Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And
very accurate. Very accurate.
Yeah, I can see the comparison. So I think that's a pretty cool comparison. I like that a lot. And while I disagree with him winning in a couple of weeks, just because you don't put the belt on Kenny to take it off of him within one pay-per-view cycle.
I agree. I agree.
Especially with All In a few months. But I don't think Speedball takes the pin. I think it'll probably unless Ricochet does some really dastardly shit.
Yeah.
and
admittedly, it might not be the worst thing to have Speedball take the pin because get that first loss out of the way. Let's not go into being a huge thing. And getting pinned by presumably Kenny Omega is not a bad thing.
After presumably a one-winged angel. Yeah.
So I'm cool. I'd be cool no matter what. I agree with you. Oh, honey. Oh, little sneeze stack.
Oh, yeah. My cat used to get those.
Yeah. I might
be
cat dad for a second. But yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna go deal with that in a second. But very much looking forward to this matchup. Very much enjoyed what we got out of this segment and this matchup already.
Yeah. I just want to go to it. As James Haddensell is the cat. Danny's Can I Speak Now? It's such great comedic timing. You're absolutely right. Maria, I'm the same way with Speedball. All I really know about him is what I saw in TNA, which wasn't too much. James tries to get me to watch TNA. I don't always do it. But I've seen a few pay-per-views, and I think I saw him on one or two of those. But it was a mid-card thing. I didn't really know the guy he was facing. So I kind of watched, but didn't super-duper pay attention. Suggesting a match the week before might have helped. I'm guessing if you're talking about Speedball still, and he's had 2 matches since he's been in AEW. He had the match when he debuted in the tournament to get to the match at Dynasty, and then he had the 4-way last week. So I think AEW's at least audience has gotten 2 great experiences with him so far in the ring, because both of those matches I thought were very, very good. So they've done a good job of building him up so far. I would love to see another match with him next week before the pay-per-view. I hope it's on Dynasty. Maybe they end up doing it on Collision. And Maria saying Samantha is going to show up at Dynasty. I am telling you, when she is ready, heel personal ring announcer Samantha is going to be so good for Ricochet.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be absolutely amazing.
If it worked for that abusive douchebag Roberto Del Rio, it'll work for Ricochet.
Alberto Del Rio, who has been banned from wrestling in Mexico for I think the next 2 months, by the way.
Yeah, it was like 80 days or something. What a fucking idiot.
Couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Plus, I think it might even work better for Samantha because, people find her very attractive, and it would make them even more jealous of a heel Ricochet. I think that would work.
Being attractive? Is that something?
That's something I have heard before.
I don't know. We might have to do some research on that.
Bonk?
Happily.
All right. But yeah, good. Wasn't a banger of an opening match, but we got Kenny. Crowd was hype. And a very hyped crowd throughout the night. Shout out to St. Paul, Minnesota. Moving on. Minnesota. Next up, we went to some stuff from Chris Jericho. First, we got a quick highlight reel package from this weekend. At one of the slam dunk collisions when Bandito was able to steal back his brother's mask from Jericho, and then some little girl flipped him off, which was really funny.
All right, one quick thing about the little girl. First of all, in a week, give or take, where you have the John Cena kid who got obliterated by John on the mic with that crowd shot.
Yeah, in Brussels, yeah.
Yeah. And then this little girl flipping Jericho off and Jericho absolutely breaking. I don't think there is a better representation of the differences between a WWE fan and an AEW fan. And I'm not criticizing either or. That John Cena kid, he could be at WrestleCon for the next 10 years signing autographs because of what happened to him.
Yeah,
that little girl from the AEW crowd, she's a sicko. And by all means, that was beautiful. Jericho played it great. And quite frankly, that's the Jericho I kind of miss. I don't know if that's just me. I miss a playful Jericho who can have fun. Don't get me wrong. I know the learning tree stuff is meant to be fun and tongue-in-cheek, but it's different. It's satire fun. So, that's all.
Yeah, he's almost been playing himself on TV to make a callback. So, it was really funny. Maria's saying it's been a rough few weeks for kids. I don't know. It seemed like a good weekend for that little girl.
Oh yeah, no, she came out on top. She won.
Yeah, that other kid. Yeah, he took her straight in the teeth. But after that package, we went backstage with Jericho, who was absolutely irate that he lost the Gravity's mask, saying it is time to remove all of the masks. And he turned his attention to Brian Keith and Big Bill, saying that they've been under the learning tree for too long for them to continue to not use his teachings and fail him. So they need to decide whether or not they want to continue to stay with him and step up or throw away all of his teachings and leave. And then so Bill and Keith walk away, not leaving him, just they walk away. And Jericho returns his attention to Bandito, saying he doesn't really want Gravity's mask. He wants Bandito's. So he offers a mask versus title match for the Ring of Honor Championship at Dynasty, saying he is once again going to make Bandito's mother cry when he has to remove his mask. So I'm hyped for that match. I hope Bandito wins. Unless he's a really good-looking guy underneath that mask and they want to get it off of him, I really hope Bandito wins. And once again becomes Ring of Honor champion.
I have a feeling if he unmasks, it's going to be a Rey Mysterio situation where he looks like a baby.
I've been seeing more clips of Rey when he was in, The Animals, after he unmasked in WCW. And I'm like, not annoyed, but it's really breaking the immersion with him.
Yeah.
I like it better not knowing what Rey looks like. I've seen pictures of him and shit before, but I've been able to just kind of mentally forget them. But if I keep seeing him now,
people.
Yeah. But no, I couldn't tell you. I just know he's bald. But I don't want to know what Rey looks like on purpose.
I have unfortunately grown up with him maskless. I just saw a fun clip a couple of days ago, and it was Conan and Rey running away from Kevin Nash backstage.
And Rey eats shit.
Well, he eats shit, but that was fine. It serves the cowardly I'm running away thing.
Yeah, he tripped on the cable cover.
Yeah.
I saw that part. I didn't see the rest.
They get to the car. Conan is driving. Rey hops into the bed, the pickup, the back of the truck. Back of the pickup. It's open, it's exposed, and everything. Kevin is supposed to get into the car, right there and follow them. But legit, a shoot. Another car, a limo pulled up. Not supposed to be there. And blocked Conan and Rey from escaping. So Kevin just got out of his car and just started beating Rey up because there was no other way to sell this story. It would have looked absolutely fake and ridiculous otherwise. And I don't think something encapsulates WCW, the last days of WCW, better than car showed up and almost ruined the entire thing. Stuff.
Yeah, I agree with Maria here. WCW sucked with making Ray take the mask off. He didn't want to. Bischoff was always weird about that. I don't know why. He just hated the masks. So,
Yep.
but I'm excited for the build to this match. Honestly, I feel like I haven't seen a good mask match, at least here stateside, in a while. So having a mask versus title match with Jericho seems like a really cool idea.
We get them occasionally. I'm just never crazy about masks versus titles because it almost always feels obvious that the masked guy is going to win. And like I can't remember the last time in the States I've seen mask versus mask. That's something.
That's true.
Those are stakes. We've gotten mask versus hair a couple of times over the years, and even then, it's like I know the guy's getting his head shaved. I know, like I'm not worried about the mask coming off. I know I'm going to see a guy's head get shaved. Give me a nice mask versus mask story.
Was Angle hair versus hair or mask versus hair?
Hair versus hair.
Who was it against again?
Edge.
Oh yeah.
and Adam Copeland, who was told basically until the day of that he was losing. And all the while, this was pitched by Kurt because he was going bald and he wanted to shave his head.
Yeah.
But Vince had Adam Copeland convinced that he was losing his hair in that matchup.
Maria makes a good point. At some point in the future, we're getting mask versus hair at Mania because it's going to be Ray versus Dom.
Yeah. See, I don't even care about the hair. It's got to be mustache versus mask. That's really what it's got to be.
I would be cool with the hair as long as Ray put in the stipulation that the mustache counts as hair.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
All right. Let's keep it moving. Next up, we went to MJF, who came down to the ring so that he could call MVP down and give his answer of whether or not he wanted to join the Hurt Syndicate. And before he does, MJF ran down the crowd a little bit, making reference to Michael Jackson being better than Prince and Buddy. You probably shouldn't talk about either of those guys. But he says that he's been looking at MVP's card for 2 weeks straight, and he then invites MVP down so that they can talk business face to face. And then MVP comes down, and after MJF butters him up a little bit, Max then says that ever since Adam Cole, he doesn't do friends anymore, but neither does MVP. When MVP clocks in, he's just there to do business.
I like this. I like that thought process.
Yep. And after looking at the card for a while, MJF decided that he wants to also be in the business of hurting people. So the two go to shake hands. However, the Hurt Business music hits again. Also, shout out this crowd. Really good We Hurt People chant out of them.
Hurt people.
And then
hurt people.
Big Bobby chants and Big Shelton chants. As both Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin come down to the ring. And before anybody can really do or say anything, Bobby gets right into Max's face. And then Bobby extends his hand, and Max is like, do you want me to shake it? And he's like, I can give you a hug. Like, what do you want? And Bobby's like, give me the card. Yeah. Max like, what? Bobby, give me the card. So Max gives him the card. He's like, all right. And Bobby hands his title to MVP and tears up the card. So then Max is like, what the hell? Like, do we have to have this out? Like, we do this here. And Bobby just raised his fist. MVP's like, oh, he's cool. We're cool. We're cool. And Max is like, all right, look, we don't have to do this now. We'll talk about this later in private. We're all good. And he goes and he leaves. And then MVP's kind of like, what the hell? But then they're interrupted by Brian Keith and Big Bill. And they come out, and then Keith says that they're there to conduct some business. And MVP goes to Bill. Is like, Bill, you want to get your bitch in line? And then it just ends up in this kind of, I don't want to say weird, but it ended up with a back and forth with Bill and MVP discussing who each other's bitches were. Whether Shelton and Bobby were MVP's bitches or Keith was Bill's bitch. And MVP clearly won this discussion.
Oh, yeah. Bill killed himself when he was like, are you a pimp or a businessman? And he's like, I'm a little bit of both, and I'm going to make you my bitch. I'm like, oh, my God. Oh, God. I mean, I like Bill. We like Bill. We both know Bill is not the promo guy. He can do a fun line here or there, but he's not a promo guy.
And he's gotten a lot better at it when you're going against freaking MVP.
Oh, God. It was like seeing a little kid go against a trained adult black belt. It doesn't matter how good you are, kids. You're getting knocked out by that black belt.
Yeah. So anyway, after all of that, Bill demands a tag team title match so that he and Keith can prove themselves to Jericho, saying with the reasoning that he never got pinned for the tag team titles, and then Sting left before he could have his rematch. A little bit of weak reasoning, but I understand the attempt. And it's so weak that MVP just laughs at him and calls him a comedian, but then says he will grant the match if the two actually win one first, since they haven't been able to do so. And then MVP laughs and goes back, and then Bobby gets into Bill's face before Shelton calls Bobby off, and they all leave. So this was, obviously this was kind of a two-parter, but we'll start with the MJF MVP Hurts Syndicate stuff, because it seemed obviously MJF was ready to join up with these guys, which is a little surprising, but very interesting. But Bobby and Shelton don't seem to want MJF in it. And we get into that a little bit later, but I found that very intriguing.
Yeah.
And to see the little bit of the gap in thinking between MVP and the tag champs. And then, we had the setup for the tag title match at, I presume, Dynasty, but as you said, that was, there was a body there. A murder was committed here, sources tell ESPN, Woj tweet. It was pretty ugly. But I'm very, very intrigued by this MJF stuff.
You say it was surprising, but to me, it fits very well within the MJF character.
Yes.
Even prior to Cole. Let's go back early to MJF. The man cultivated a lot of relationships that were very business oriented, whether it was Pinnacle or his relationship with Roosh, because he used to hire Roosh out a bunch of times in LFI.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we would see that MJF would not be above paying other wrestlers or just forming alliances that served him. And given the fact that we've been told and we've been hearing about the history, the long history that he has with MVP prior to AEW, this all fits very well within what MJF wants. Somebody who can guide him back to gold, because MVP is a manager of a successful group in AEW, and he was a manager of a successful group in WWE. He's guided his people to tag championships, to world championships. He's just helped them get there. So I think all of that made sense for MJF. I wasn't crazy about the drama between the Hurt Syndicate, though. Because while they acknowledge the fact that they've been on vacation, they talk about it later in the segment later backstage, the backstage stuff. Am I really to believe that Bobby and Shelton didn't speak to MVP at all prior to this? Is this a good look to present if you're trying to present a unified, hurtful front? If you guys aren't on the same page in front of people, makes the group look kind of weak. So I wasn't thrilled with that aspect of it. I do like, and I keep holding back because we haven't talked about the segment later. I do like Bobby's thought process. I do like Shelton's thought process as to why they don't want MJF. And again, we'll get into it when we talk about it.
Yeah.
But I just wasn't crazy with how that was handled here in the moment.
Well, let's do that segment now then, so we can, kind of cover this all at once. So this was way later in the show. It was right before the main event. And Lexi Nair was backstage trying to get a word in with the Hurt Syndicate. Was not Lexi? Who was it?
That was Alicia Tout.
Oh, my apologies. I thought it was Lexi. I just knew it wasn't Renee.
Not Renee.
Yeah. I think we saw Lexi earlier in the show.
We did. She appeared once or twice.
Yeah, that's why I got a little confused. She had her back to everything, so I just kind of thought. Anyway, Alicia asked the Hurt Syndicate if she can for a word, and they politely declined and said, "Give me another time. We just need some time to talk stuff out with ourselves right now." So she leaves. Camera stays though, and that doesn't appear to bother anybody. Anyway, Bobby questioned MVP about sending him on vacation, and then they went and saw him on TV the next week, laughing it up with MJF. And MVP said that while they deserve the vacation, he doesn't get time off from making business or doing business. And he mentions that they've been talking about adding a fourth member, and he saw an opportunity with MJF, so he took it. Shelton then questions it being MJF, though, and Bobby's like, why do you even like this kid? And Shelton says he's got a reputation, and MVP says that, yes, MJF can be reprehensible, but it is why he likes it. But they are all the Hurt Syndicate together, so if they don't want MJF in, he will respect the dynamic, and he doesn't have to join. In the meantime, though, they should focus on the Big Bill situation, and MVP asks if they're on the same page, and Bobby says that they are, and Shelton agrees, saying that they're going to hurt people. So I thought they did a good job of, while there was a lack of communication initially there, and it was shown, in public, we did see them go and work it out backstage. So I think everything's copacetic between the three of them. So I did kind of like the way they handled it, even if you didn't initially like it in the first segment.
Yeah, no, I agree. If I have an issue when it's addressed later on, that works for me. So that's fine. It's literally an example of let it play out. So I'm all good on that regard. It was just in the moment, it was a concern.
Yeah.
I am intrigued at the notion of MVP joining them, because whether it's an MVP thing or MJ, too many M's, too many.
It's a little.
I am intrigued at the notion of MJF joining them, because whether it's an MJF thing or a Hurt Syndicate thing, I just don't see it lasting forever. I don't see it lasting all that long, just with the egos involved. And Bobby is right now going for the tag titles. Are you going to tell me that he's not going to want to go for the world title sooner than later?
Yeah.
So how does that work with MJF, who wants nothing but the world title? So very intrigued, and I think this is a storyline for MJF that I can really sink my teeth into and be invested in. But hopefully it works out in the long run.
To jump into the comments for a second, it is continuing to predict that MJF will be bringing in his own group. And I think it's possible, but I read this more, at least the second segment, as they are trying to add a fourth member, and there is a certain Cedric Alexander that is a free agent at the moment, or going to be. So
I could see that playing into everything. That MJF is part of the group, and then he starts to feel ostracized once Cedric arrives. And that's what leads to the disillusion. But that said, I don't know who MJF could bring in to battle these monsters in Cedric that are the Hurt Syndicate.
Yeah.
I don't know. Wardlow, maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say that would have to be Wardlow, but then, we're doing that again. So
I don't care. I agree the again aspect of it is a little annoying, but you know what? I would rather anything for Wardlow at this point, even if it's a retread.
Fair. It's saying I should find you one Star Wars toy every time you said let it play out, but I think I say that more than him. So
I got figures for days. You can't. I could say it 100 times and I would still have an army of them.
It's very true. Also, Maria's saying maybe MJF's backup could be Wardlow and Josh Alexander. I believe that's a name she mentioned last week as well too.
I'll be honest, and I hope Producer Boy will clip this eventually. There is one person that I would love to see get brought into MJF's world. You know him. We're fans of him from the indies. I would absolutely love Charles Mason being introduced as a counterpoint to MJF.
Oh God. And I mean that in that kind of way. That would be great.
I think you have so much potential for Charles Mason to be the Patrick Bateman to MJF's Paul Allen. And if you guys haven't seen American Psycho, go see it. But you've never seen American Psycho?
No, but I know. I know what you're saying, but my point being, my point was going to be Mason fits MJF's aesthetic so perfectly.
Exactly.
That I think he would work great with MJF, and then an eventual turn on MJF would be awesome.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree. And I wish I had
come to House of Glory one day. You'll find a lot of good talent. A lot of it's yours.
We are getting Takeshita versus Santana for the Hog title.
That's for the title?
I am 95% sure. Unless they decide to straight up not make it for the title, I'm 95% sure Takeshita is going for the Hog title, which is crazy.
I think I have a game that... Oh, no, it's a Friday. I have a game the day after. I'll be fine. Yeah, I can go.
That is the day I'm coming back from Japan.
That's what it is.
I might quite literally hop off the plane from Japan to see a Japanese wrestler wrestle in New York.
You can fly into LaGuardia and just walk to the place.
Oh, my God.
That would be funny as hell. I wanted to just point out that Maria said that they were going to bring in Cedric before we did.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm glad we're all on the same page with that. Could we see MJF perhaps work with maybe Jay White?
I don't think they work together well.
Yeah, I think maybe for a brief time, but they are two guys who are very prone on betraying each other, and they are also very both dead set on going after the AEW World Championship right now. So I think it would be very difficult for the two of them to get along since they have the same goals. And you know what? Also saying, please don't tell WWE about House of Glory. We won't. Even though every time I go to one of their shows, I wear the chopped cheese sweatshirt.
It's just the New York thing.
It really is. Like I was wearing it Grand Slam, and one of the guys when I was getting a beer, he's like, "Yo, that's a sick shirt. Where'd you get that?" And I was like, "At a wrestling shop." He's like, "That's a wrestling shirt? It's awesome." I was like, "Yeah, my friend, he's from the Bronx." He's like, I get it. Yeah, I think it's awesome, dude. So the shirt plays. I love that thing. All right, let's move on. So after we had the whole MJF MVP thing, we did the backstage interview with Toni Storm and Thunder Rosa, and we went back to the ring for our next match and saw Kyle Fletcher against Brody King. Obviously, that carny piece of shit Don Callis was at ringside, but thankfully not on commentary for this one. Don't worry, he made his way to the desks eventually. We jumped to the end of the match with Brody lighting up for a cannonball in the corner. Don jumped up on the apron and distracted referee Bryce Remsburg, which allowed Mark Davis to sneak in and pull Fletcher out of the way of the cannonball. The two men then fought up to the top ropes, and then Davis again distracted the referee, and that allowed Fletcher to gouge Brody's eyes, escaping the fireman's carry and jumping down to the ring. Fletcher then hit an enziguri, climbed back up, and hit the turnbuckle brainbuster. I don't know how he hit it on Brody, and then pinned King for the win. After the match, Fletcher and Davis began to assault Brody, but then the music of Davis's opponent in the next match, Powerhouse Hobbs, hit. Fletcher and Davis square up towards the entrance, but Hobbs came out through the crowd, taking down his straps and blindsiding Davis after sliding in the ring to take him down. Brody then hit a lariat on Fletcher, and the two of them spilled over the top rope, and we had a commercial with Davis and Powerhouse Hobbs brawling. So, James, this is a really good match. Yes. I think I saw call it match of the night earlier.
I'd agree.
This went 2 commercial breaks too, so they gave these motherfuckers some time, and they deserved it. And this is one of those matches where I'm just like, this is why I fucking watch AEW. It's 2 dudes I know who can absolutely go in the ring. And did it mean a lot? Not really, but I got a random banger on a fucking Wednesday, and this is why I love Dynamite. These 2 guys absolutely killed it tonight.
No, I completely agree. This was old school AEW. Yep. This was like year 1, year 2 AEW, and it was fun, you know? I'm getting a little sick and tired of seeing Brody eating pins.
It agrees.
Yep. But that said, Fletcher needed a big win because this was his first match post-cage match. So he needed a big rebound, and I get that. And it's impressive to have a win over someone like Brody King. but it's getting to the point that I'm expecting Brody to lose more often than win. You know, it's getting to a point that I'm expecting to see him lose, and that's not how I should be viewing him. The match was great. Both guys hit great spots. Brody at one point hit a great Death Valley driver that I was just like, damn, he put some stank on that one.
Yeah. I think Fletcher hit a tombstone on the apron too to Brody, like right before one of the commercial breaks, the second one, I think. So yeah, these guys hit some awesome spots.
So these guys were just, again, they're reminding us what we know, which is just how good they are, you know? So I really did enjoy it. The brawl after was fun. I don't know where Fletcher goes from here. Maybe he should be the one to take the TNT title off Garcia.
Be a good feud.
Yeah, I think so. And even if it's just a quick feud and it's not a long feud, but he takes the title off of him, I think Fletcher being TNT champion would be good. Right now, the mid-card titles are held by 2 baby faces and 1 heel. Garcia, Kenny, and Okada. Yep. And I think we're all prepping for the eventual reality of Kenny versus Okada in a unification match. And having Kenny, I mean, God willing, Kenny wins that. But having Kenny win that and Fletcher as a heel mid-card champ, I think that's a good balance. And you're going to get some great matches. So hopefully we get there. And Brody, I got to say, I know I shouldn't think about it too much because I know this was to serve the bigger story with Hobbs and Davis. But why wouldn't Buddy Matthews? Why wouldn't Buddy Matthews come out and make the save?
You know, I was wondering that myself, Will Ospreay, but
there are worse people to be compared to.
Yeah,
I will take it.
It made sense within the context of the show, though. Hobbs was up next, and he was probably getting ready anyway. And then he was just like, "Well, I'm not letting this shit stand. Fuck Don Callis and his family." So he went out there and he took on his opponent. So I liked it, and always like when they do stuff that connects one match to the next one and keeps the show rolling, so that everything's interconnected, and we're not always getting a not necessarily a smash cut, but you know what I mean. Let's move on to the next thing type of thing. So I really like that, and I like they did the big pull apart brawl, and I know, like I said earlier, it was during commercial, so the audience got some extra meat while they were there. But I like the idea of the show's not just stopping because it was commercial. These 2 motherfuckers were going at it for another 5 minutes, and when we got back, they had just finished pulling them apart. So I really liked all that. I thought it was really cool as they made that transition to the next match. Before we hit that, it's saying that the last move on King was absolutely brutal.
Yep.
Maria saying that the unification between the international and continental titles need to happen. I still don't care either way, personally. And she also says that Brody should win a championship very soon. So, you can say Brody and Hobbs going after the tag titles. That'd be
I'm not opposed, but there's a perfect
buddy.
Good buddy. Yeah.
Yeah. Good buddy.
Good buddy.
Good buddy. Good buddy.
We're getting good brothers soon. I don't know if you saw.
So, okay, the dude was wearing a sweatshirt. I don't necessarily know that means they're coming.
I think it was pointed. I think that man is a carny, and he knew exactly what he was wearing.
Yeah, or he was a carny and he was just trying to stir up all that momentum.
Yeah, maybe. I just think in a world where you're buddies with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and Don Callis, it's a matter of when, not a matter of if they're coming in.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't need them to. I really don't need them to. I think, quite frankly, they'd be better off in TNA. They'd be better off in New Japan.
I was going to say, let's go back to Japan.
But I
know there's kids, but...
Yeah, I was going to say, Anderson's got like 6 kids. I understand him not wanting to stay in Japan.
Yeah.
But I think it's just, you could hear the ticking clock of them going back to AEW.
Yeah. In answer to his question, what was he wearing? I think he was wearing an AEW branded jacket or hoodie or something. So
it had the insignia like right there.
Yeah. I agree with you. Fletcher and getting the TNT title would be good. He'd probably be on Collision a lot more, which would suck a little, but I think it'd be good for him. It would give him a whole new crop of challengers. I feel like it seems like a really good idea. Rhea says Brody is the AEW version of Jacob Fatu. Call me crazy. Little less prison time, but
I get it. I'd compare Brody more to Braun Strowman.
I think Brody's a little more agile than Braun.
Oh, 100%.
He's kind of like somewhere in the middle of the two.
We're saying this like we didn't used to see Braun do fucking kip-ups and drop kicks.
True.
I think he even did a hurricane at a big show once. I can't prove that, but I think he did.
Yeah, post-injury, he hasn't been moving as much, or moving as well, I would rather say. Yeah. But Brody's just got some speed to him, man.
He really does.
Speaking of big dudes, as we were talking about, Powerhouse Hobbs faced off against Mark Davis after that big pull apart. Unfortunately, that carny piece of shit John Callis joined commentary for this one. And as we came out of commercial, we had Hobbs and Davis separated, as I mentioned, by both security and referees. But the two men eventually just started shoving all those people aside, got into the ring, threw whichever ones had joined them in the ring out of it, and then were like, ring the fucking bell. So I think it was Aubrey Edwards was like, all right, we're going. And she rang the bell. And we just got two big meaty men slapping me for about 5 minutes. Towards the end of this match, the two men ended up falling together after a big collision, and Davis was the first man to his feet, and he had a quick enziguri to drop Hobbs to a knee before hitting the ropes. However, Hobbs quickly recovered to catch Davis and nail him with a spine buster to pick up the win. After the match, Hobbs got out of the ring in Don's general direction, so Don just ran away. And I mean fucking sprinted away. So this was fine. It was very quick. I noticed that. It was a very decisive win for Hobbs.
I'd agree. And I think that's what it needed to be. Look, we talked about it. Davis is impressing. He had a great showing last week.
Yeah,
he really did. He's not going to be a guy for them. He's just not. They're going to throw him in to have good matches and to lose, but he's going to be a loser. The draw here was the brawl prior to the match. That was, that's the talking point. And Hobbs getting a big win. I don't know why Hobbs came in through the crowd. I guess I get it was the mystery, like not the mystery, the surprise to get the ambush on them. But when you have an entrance that good, you just make it for the crowd.
I was going to say he's been doing the entrance through the crowd, I think, the last few weeks, or he's done it a couple of times in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
I forget where they were. I don't remember where they were. It was one of the ones when, I think it was the same week Wheeler Yuta came in from the outside too. Like he came in through the crowd and it looked really cool because it was a really short walk up. But yeah, I forgot, like his entrance is so dope. I hope they don't give it up for the crowd entrance.
I get that it's kind of like with the new stage that they have, I'm sure it's harder to do. Like, I don't know how the Bucks are doing their entrance or Okada. Maybe that's why we haven't seen Okada in forever, because the entryway is different. But
yeah, I don't think that screen lifts up either. Like that would be my guess, but
yeah, I don't think that's happening. So I don't know. This was fine. I don't want to bury it, but like there's not much to say. It was a quick meat slappy brawl that ended in a 1-2-3. So
yeah, and it made Hobbs look really good, and I think that was the point.
Exactly.
Maria saying Don is a bully and a chicken, and that is why he is a carny piece of shit. Also, the typo did made me think you were talking about the Mandalorian for a second, and I was very confused. And asking if we saw Don's twin brother in the crowd, and I unfortunately did not. That would have been really funny, though.
All right. So that was really fun. There was somebody behind commentary. There was a fan dressed as Callis. And when Callis was doing anything, the fan would mimic him. So there was one point Don was just like this. And that was really painful, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And the fan looked at him. He took a second. and it was amazing. It was amazing. So sometimes I feel a little weird about fans that try getting themselves over, but it was so fun and it was done in such a good spirited, silly way. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, Maria did as well. I look forward to seeing this on Botchamania.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And or I'll go back and find it on Reddit or Blue Sky or something.
Yeah, I'm sure you will.
Yeah. After this, we went backstage, this time with Lexi Nair. And she was there with the patriarchy. And she started off by asking Nick Wayne about his recent actions. And Nick says that he's starting to see why Christian did what he did at Revolution, but he is going to wait to discuss that until he is face-to-face with Christian. As for what he did to Copeland last week during the title match, he says that just goes to show what can happen when everyone's on the same page and they properly, and he repeats, properly executes a plan. He then walks away, followed quickly by his mother, but Kip Sabian hangs back for a second, and then he reluctantly leaves as well. So just a small little build-up as we're probably going to see Nick Wayne break away from Christian in the near future. Good promo from him, though, honestly. We haven't heard him talk in a while.
Yeah, it was good. I could tell that he's trying on the mic. So I give him credit.
Definitely improved since when he came in with Darby. And again, he's like 20, 21, so he's
and I think that's being generous. I don't know that he's even 20. He might still be 18.
Oh, really? Yeah. I think he was he was 18 when he joined the company. He was 17 when we first saw him.
Yes.
When Swerve kicked the shit out of him because he wasn't legally allowed to join the company yet because he was still 17.
Yeah.
Lexi Nair wasn't that hair removal product back in the 70s and 80s. Nair was indeed that, yes. I always think of that too.
As somebody who has used Nair before,
Ow.
It is quite the product.
Hard pass. After commercial, we came back to another backstage interview, this time with one Hangman Adam Page. And Renee is there, and she tries to ask Hangman about joining or entering into the Owen Hart tournament. But before she can finish saying anything, she is interrupted by Swerve Strickland, who comes over and immediately gets in Hangman's face, asking Hangman if he heard correctly, even though he has a ruptured eardrum, that Hangman said he was going to get involved in Swerve's championship match.
Okay. When did that happen? Because Hangman didn't say a fucking word in that promo.
He said it last week.
Okay, fine. All right. I was so confused. And because I didn't remember Hangman saying that last week. And I'm like, did Swerve just completely miss his cue and jump ahead?
No, last week, Renee asked about Moxley versus Swerve becoming official. And Hangman said that he had vowed to never allow Swerve to become AEW World Champion ever again, and he is a man of his word. And then he turns his attention to the Owen. So it was a brief part of the backstage interview he had, but it did happen. And obviously Swerve came over to question him, and then the two of them continued to jaw jack after Hangman confirmed that he did say that before Prince Nana got involved, and he backed Swerve away. After this, we went to a sit-down interview with Rated FTR, hosted by one Toni Schiavone.
All right, Tony Starr.
That's a Jericho thing, isn't it?
Well, so she calls him, I think, Mr. Siobhan.
Yeah, she says it with some panache. Jericho is just an asshole. Anyway, as Tony's attempting to introduce everybody and introduce the scenario, Dak politely interrupts him and apologizes to both Adam Copeland and Cash for what he did last week, saying his emotions got the best of them after him and Cash had left going for the tag team titles about 4 months ago to help Copeland go after the AEW championship, and it didn't really end up working out. Copeland jumps in and says that the only reason that any of this started is because he came back to help FTR after the Death Riders had kidnapped them and put bags over their heads. And Dak's like, yeah, no, I know that. That's why I'm apologizing, because I let my emotions get the best of me. Like, we were all doing this one thing. And then I was just like, but I haven't been after the titles. And like, I just became emotional and I'm sorry. And then so Cash intercedes. He's like, look, you two are two of my best friends. We have all this history together. Copeland, I think, helped him when Cash was living out of a car, and him and Dax have been tagging forever. And he's just like, I want my two best friends to be on the same page. And Dax again says, that is why I'm apologizing. I just want us to, put this all behind us and get back on track for going after the tag team championships. But Cash is like, actually, I think there's a little bit of life left in Rated FTR, and maybe we should go after the Trios championships one more time. Copeland agrees with this, and he challenges the Death Riders to a Trios title match at Dynasty. Dax is like, all right, yeah, I like the sound of that. Top guy's out. And then Copeland goes, well, actually, Rated FTR out. And Cash is like, well, that sounds even better. And Dax is just kind of like, yeah. So this was an interesting one, James, because there was a very interesting dynamic with Dax clearly being frustrated with situations for the last 4 months, them continually helping out Copeland, putting aside their desires to regain the AEW Tag Team Championship. And I understand the frustration and everything, but it doesn't seem like these three men are on the same page. Cash is kind of caught in the middle, and they're setting up for this, I feel like, the Dax turn and the will they, won't they of Cash.
So, yes, you nailed it. You nailed it. I can't begin to tell you how disinterested I am, though. and the only reason, because I really do like FTR. They are an evergreen great tag team. You can always rely on them to either, if you need to put the tag titles on someone in a pinch, you could trust FTR. If you need somebody to challenge for the titles on a whim, you could trust FTR. They are tag team guys through and through. And that's my issue with this. There is no world, none at all, where anybody cares about either Dax or Cash not in a tag team.
James is going full fuck the revival right now.
Cody knows. Cody knows. Be honest with me. We like FTR so much.
No, yeah, they're one of the best tag teams in the world. Maybe ever.
You care about seeing Dax or Cash in singles runs? Like legitimate tag team broken up singles runs.
Not tag team broken up. I was enjoying like those singles matches they were having for a little while, especially Dax. Like he had a good run there. I don't remember if it was last year or 2 years ago when he was doing single stuff. It was mostly when Cash like almost ripped his arm off. Yeah. So like I enjoy them as singles competitors, especially Dax, but like them breaking up just feels weird, which is like why I'm praying to God they don't do it.
I just don't think I don't think they do. I think this is false drama. Like I think they turn heel. I think they betray Cope. Yeah. And quite frankly, I see the breadcrumbs being placed for Cope and Christian versus FTR. But it just none of it feels real. Like none of it feels natural. It feels like we're forcing this for the sake of it. And I'm okay with that. If we're actually going to be getting Cope and Christian as a tag team, that's fine. I've been clamoring for it since I think 2009. But how we got here just feels really, really silly. Like, I didn't like the drama last week with FTR and Cope. I'm not liking it here. Like, it just, yeah, man, I'm just upset because we haven't been there for the tag titles. And Cope is right. Well, I only got involved in this shit because you were almost murdered. They almost killed you. So it's like, I don't know. It feels so illogical. And I hear myself nitpicking. I hear me bitching about this. It's just, there were other ways to have gotten here.
Yes, but I think at least like Dax is being illogical. He's just being irrational. He's being selfish because they did all of this for naught in his eyes. Like if Copeland had won, he would have been like, all right, fine. We did this. Like one of our best friends won the title. We took down the Death Riders. Like, we got our revenge. But instead, in his brain, he's like, so we did all this shit for no reason. And while we could have been going for the tag titles. That's his, again, selfish and irrational thinking. So I understand you're thinking of this needs to be logical, but when people make stupid, emotional, selfish decisions, they're often not.
All the logic went with his head of hair. I attribute this to him being a bald man.
It went to the nair he was using to shave his back.
Full circle, baby. Way to go. Professionals here at the Market Down Podcast.
I like a bunch of people on Reddit the other week remembered that the Jimmy Uso laughing gif is from when they were doing the back shaving FTR thing. Because if you look in the background, you can see Dax with the shaving cream on his back, but everyone's just focusing on Jimmy in the front.
Oh, God.
Those boys have come a long way. All of them, but especially FTR.
That they have.
I want to say hi to Danny, who just says Kitty. I guess he saw Hetty running around in the background. But Danny, we did all the cat talk when we were talking about Kenny Omega, so sorry, buddy, you missed it. Also, you know what saying, James hates Canadians and FTR. Add that.
One of those is true. I'm not going to tell you which, though.
Just add those to the list. Okay, after this, we had our Swerve Strickland, John Moxley segment. And then from that, we went to a segment with the Ops backstage as Shibata had once again commandeered a camera, and he was following around Joe and Hook.
They choke people. They choke people.
So as Shibata is doing a phenomenal job recording, by the way, he's really good at this camera work. Joe asked Hook about his sinking in the choke. Oh, I did not. I'm so sorry, dude.
I'm looking for it.
It was a little. I know. I think it was a little further. I saw it really quick and then I forgot to post it. That's my bad. Producing, hosting, same time can be. It's a lot going on. Anyway, as you find it, Joe was asking Hook about Hook sinking in his choke a little bit extra on Max Caster when he answered the open challenge over the weekend. And Hook says he did it for fun. And Joe's like, what? And he's like, well, Caster's so annoying. And it was fun. And Joe's like, all right. And then they keep walking. And then he sees Caster trying to convince Top Flight and AR Fox to each go solo. And Top Flight's like, dude, nobody's cheering you. And Mac's like, yes, they are. They keep chanting me. You know. And what is it? Let's go, Max Caster. He's the best wrestler alive. Or
let's go, Max. You're the best wrestler alive.
I threw the Caster in there. That's all I missed. Anyway, so Joe sees this, and Shibata swings in with the camera behind Top Flight, and Joe and Hook walk up behind Caster. And then as Caster's chanting, goes, hey, Shibata, what are you doing with that camera? And then Joe just grabs him and puts him in the coquina clutch and passes Caster out. And then he looks at Hook and just goes, you're right, that was fun as hell, and just daps Hook up. And then the two groups dap as they remind everybody that Top Flight's from Minnesota. And then I didn't hear what Hook said before he left, but he said something, and then he was like, and that's till death. And then Shibata with the speaking spell was just like, I see what you did there, but I didn't see what he did there. So either way, I missed the joke, and this was still funny as hell. I need more of these segments with the backstage with the Ops. They're just always great. After that, we went to commercial and then came back with another interview backstage, this time with the Switchblade Jay White. And Renee asked him about both Ospreay and Hangman declaring that they will be entering the Owen Hart tournament. And White says that those are indeed some big names, so he decides to add one more and officially enters himself. White then recounts his bad luck in last year's tournament, losing to Hangman for the first time, thanks to his quote-unquote friend Christian, and then I think getting knocked out in the semis. But he says this year he will win and go to All In, and if he runs with the Hangman and Ospreay, so be it. In the meantime, one of the original Collision Cowboys will be headed back there to anyone who wants to take him on and challenge his top spot. And then it is later announced that Kevin Knight from Ring of Honor will be his opponent on Saturday. After this, we went to a very quick match, which was a Top Flight against who I believe was Royal Flavor They didn't announce them as that, but that was on their trunks. I think that their names were listed: Alex Finley and Devo Knight, who honestly looked like there were some pretty top tier indie guys, or like probably local indie guys, because it was really nice gear. It was like matching nice gear, monogrammed with their names and the tag team name. It didn't matter. They got absolutely washed by Top Flight. What really came out of this is A, Top Flight, wins in their hometown. And B, Action Andretti and Leo Rush were in the crowd near the entrance ramp. So they all jaw jacked during the entrance, and then after the match, they got a bit more jaw jacking as well. And then we also had Brian, Keith, and Big Bill watching backstage. And it was announced, I think, during the match that they get Top Flight in a match on Collision. So keep an eye out for that on Saturday. I got 5 on Big Bill and Brian Keith because they need a win to face off for the tag titles. After that, we got a quick video package from Will Ospreay, since he's the only guy in the O we didn't hear from. And then we move to our next match, which saw Konosuke Takeshita face off against Mark Briscoe. This also then saw the return of that carny piece of shit Don Callis to commentary. And by this time, Taz was completely fucking fed up with him. Like, I think in the Davis match, Taz challenged Don to get in the ring, because Don was like, "Why don't you get in the ring, Taz?" He's like, "Oh, I'm retired. I'm not getting in the ring in there with Davis. I get in the ring with you, Don." And then Don just started choking. So Taz was just on one with fucking Don tonight. He was like, I do not want to talk to this guy. I don't like Don. He called him cheap to his face multiple times. So he's like, that's why Hobbs doesn't like you.
The best thing about Taz is I never know when he's losing it for real or if he's just in character. Because like, there are times he actually gets hot. And he's like, you can tell legit Taz is pissed. And then there are times that you can tell he's in character and he's serving the story. But this is like, there are times you don't know. There's a gray area. And oh God, it's just funny stuff.
Yeah, he was on one tonight, and it was unbelievable. I'll jump to the end of this match. So after the two men exchanged a couple of exploder suplexes, I think they each hit like 2 apiece. Takeshita was a man who was ended up standing, and he had a rising knee strike, but Briscoe was able to kick out. Takeshita then lined Briscoe up again, but Mark countered and hit a J driller, but Takeshita was pinned too close to the ropes and, was able to get his foot out of bounds. Briscoe then went to get Takeshita up, I believe, for what Excalibur called a cutthroat, but Takeshita was able to get out of it and then hit a knee strike before hitting a Raging Fire for the win. James, if the Fletcher King match was a match of the night for you, I think this was great. I thought this match ended multiple times from both Briscoe and Takeshita. And I was just like, are we going to do a Takeshita losing streak thing here? Like a couple of times. Yeah. And then Takeshita ended up pulling it out. So this is an absolute banger of a match. I really, really loved it. And probably better Takeshita won. He did just lose the title. And I know he squashed Caster the other week. But this was similar to Fletcher, an absolute banger of a match for another member of the Don Callis family, in which they pick up a very important win.
Yeah, a big rebound streak for Takeshita. Mark is always going to be one of those guys who could just eat a loss and it won't matter. He's so beloved, he's so popular that like you could just heat him up in a moment's notice, So I'm always sad to see Mark take the loss, but I know he can take it. And Takeshita needs, like, I don't know what the plan is for him, but he's hot as ever. Like, the big thing to remember, and it's why I love the finish between Kenny and Takeshita, it protected Takeshita so much. Oh, yeah. It was a roll-up win. He got caught. He didn't lose, like, he lost, but he didn't get beat. He just got outplayed. And I'm really happy to see him maintain that level of strength. So hopefully big things are coming for him very soon. But I really don't know what you do with him. I don't know how you slot pretty much any member of the Don Callis family right now. Yeah. The Murder Machines aren't getting their tag title shot, it seems. Mark Davis is good loser.
I think you're right. Fletcher going for the TNT title is probably the only guy you can really slot. But
yeah, but I don't know what you do with Takeshita. I don't see him going for the TNT title. We could maybe, if there's time, they've been teasing Okada versus Takeshita forever.
Please.
But then Takeshita takes that loss.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends when they do it. If they do it before All In, yes. If they do it after,
anything goes.
Yeah.
I am of the belief, I don't know if I'm crazy, I am of the belief the moment Okada loses the Continental Championship, not even 3 months later, he's going for the world title.
Yes.
Like, fully believe it. And I think there's a good chance he wins.
Depends on who has the title. I mean, if Will wins the title at All In or Darby wins the title at All, well, that's two different scenarios. Because I can see if Will wins, I don't know if Okada beats him. Darby wins, I can see that happening if they don't want Darby to run too long of a reign just because.
Yeah. And there is nobody on this planet that if they lose to Okada, it's a bad thing for them. There's nobody. Nope. And that goes all the way up from Kenny Omega all the way down to Blake Christian. So it's an interesting, we haven't seen a lot of Okada. Again, I know I don't watch a lot of Collision, but I don't even really think he's been there.
No, not too often.
So, things are gonna be really interesting when the Elite come back into play. We haven't had the Bucks, we haven't had Jack Perry, and we haven't had Okada in a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we see Okada occasionally. We saw him at Revolution.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if we see him at Dynasty.
That had a week's build.
Yep. It was he beat Buddy at Grand Slam.
Yeah.
And then so he also then got involved with Brody.
Yeah.
And then that led to that. So it was a little bit longer, but it was still it was very stretched out because he wasn't making too many appearances.
Yeah.
So and like you said, most of that happened on Collision.
Yeah. But back to this. Takeshita, I'm glad they're just keeping him hot with wins. Don't know the direction, but he's getting wins.
Yeah, I mean, hey, as Mina Shirakawa said, he's very popular in the locker room right now.
Hey.
So I'm sure they're gonna keep him very popular with the fans as well. And hey, as number one Takeshita scan here on the pod, ground floor member, I'm very happy with that.
I gotta say, I don't know. I think there's a real possibility he might take the title off of Santana.
Oh, at House of Glory?
Yeah.
That'd be so fucking cool.
Because I can't, no disrespect to Santana, who is hot right now.
Yeah, that's my guy.
Him beating Takeshita would be crazy.
I'm going to have a hard time picking who to root for in that. I mean, do I root for the Puerto Rican guy from the Bronx or do I root for one of my favorite wrestlers on the planet? I was like, next House of Glory show I go to, I just got my World Baseball Classic Puerto Rico hat. I'm going to rock that. It's going to be awesome. And then I was like, well, now he's facing Takeshita.
We'll see.
I kind of hope now it doesn't happen. I don't it would be a great match, but I don't want to have to choose. I really don't.
I will never forget. It was after Bryan Danielson came back from his retirement and he was in WWE. They booked Daniel Bryan versus Jeff Hardy. And I felt a part of my heart die that day. I was just like, I don't think there is any reality where I'll be happy. So I feel for you, kid.
Well, I remember when we saw Kenny versus Bryan at Grand Slam, and you didn't know what to do with yourself.
I cheered both men.
Yeah, it was today. The only thing you were concerned about was going to the hospital after 4 hours, but you ended up being fine.
It's okay. Being on the plane, the pressure really regulated me.
Yeah. All right, we got one more segment here before we go, and it was a quick word from the Death Riders backstage. And hey, look, they actually had the fucking titles on.
Thank God.
I hadn't seen those in a while. Anyway, they were responding to Rated FTR's challenge earlier. Yuta started by admonishing Copeland for trying to whip him away from his family. And then Claudio said something in, I think, German or something. I don't know. He speaks 8 languages. But the meat of this was Pac calling out Rated FTR for their arrogance in challenging them after everything Rated FTR had done to them in the past few weeks. It's the Death Riders, challenging Rated FTR for the Trios Championships at Dynasty. They're the ones laying out the challenge so that the Death Riders can repay everything that Rated FTR had done to them. So I actually thought this was really good from Pac. It's something that's going to fly under the radar a lot, I think. But the man makes a good point. Copeland tried to kill 3 of them. Kill 2 of them, had Willow try to kill the 3rd, and then try to whip Yuta away from his family. So he's got a point, Sting. Yeah, so no, really good stuff out of Pac there to help just before we close out the show. And then after that, obviously, as we talked about, we had the backstage segment with the Hurt Syndicate and the main event, the time of Toni Storm and Thunder Rosa versus Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford. So that wraps up the episode of Dynamite, James. I thought this was it was an interesting episode because I thought it was very well balanced. I thought everything was done very well. I thought it was all very good. Nothing seriously big really happened, which is a weird way of putting it. I guess the 2 biggest things coming out of this as we head towards Dynasty outside of the title match being made was, I guess, the whole confrontation between Swerve and Moxley and Bayne pinning Toni Storm. But I don't have anything to complain about. Like, this was a very, very good show.
This was the definition of solid. This was consistent. Like, there was no, in my opinion, as good as the Swerve stuff was, as exciting as the Megan Bayne win was, and as fun as it was to have a Kenny Omega match on Dynamite, this was not a show that had a huge peak, Consistently good, consistently high points, but no wow moment. So
I got here and stayed here, which isn't a bad thing, but
So it set a lot of groundwork for what's to come. That's exciting. Like, I'm very excited about MJF with the Hurt Syndicate. I'm very, very invested in that story. I'm excited, obviously, for Kenny's triple threat. Swerve is gonna break my heart when he loses, but I'm into all of it. It's just this felt like it was a big setup episode, And maybe I correct me. I think this would have been a very good go home episode before Dynasty.
Yeah, I think you changed up a little bit of like the segments in terms of like the content of them to fit something closer to the pay-per-view itself. Yeah, it kind of got that feel. Yeah, because like I said, it was a good balance between good promo segments and some banger matches. Like that Fletcher Brody match was a banger. That Takeshita Briscoe match was a banger. The women, again, I want to continue to point this out, main evented for the 2nd week in a row in another very good match. Absolutely. I don't think it was as good as Bayne Statlander last week, but it was still very good. Yeah. So, there was just a lot of consistently good stuff on this show. And this is it feels like, the move before the move.
Yeah. No, very well said.
It's like the show you have before the big show. Like you toss it up, now somebody just got to dunk it home. And I think we'll get that. Hopefully, is next week the go home?
Yes.
Yeah. So next week's the go home show. Oh, so this is the 2 weeks out. Let's have a banger episode.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Here we are.
And then next week we'll have the go home show on Dynamite. Hopefully that does really solid, and then we have Dynasty. All right, so that ends our show. But before we break everything down, James, I know you wanted to give an update on our giveaway for the Speedball Mike Bailey autographed picture.
So we are extending it all the way to Dynasty. So everybody who's already entered, they're still entered. You don't have to worry, but we're just extending it a little bit to Dynasty just to celebrate the big pay-per-view. So keep your eyes and ears out. I'm going to start spreading it out a little bit more on social media, but it'll be fun. All you're going to have to do is make sure you're following us here on the page. And if you've already commented on a video, you're good, you're set. But we're going to hype up Dynasty, and you're probably just going to have to comment and watch the Dynasty live review.
Yep. And so on that note, I would like to thank everybody so much for watching us here at the Market Down Podcast. And as James said, you should subscribe and hopefully like this episode here. If you enjoyed it, you like it, it lets us know that you're enjoying what we're doing. And if you subscribe, not only will you be entered into the Speedball Mike Bailey autograph giveaway. But you can also get all of our stuff here on the pod. Obviously, we have the Gym Pack Zone tomorrow. We are, as I say, as WrestleMania season's coming up, hopefully we'll be able to cover a little bit more of Raw or SmackDown, or maybe even some NXT. Shout out Stephanie Vacar defending both her titles last night. That looked like it was really good. I did like how the square circle thread was just Stephanie Vacar and also other NXT talents episode. Shout out to whatever Reddit mod put that up. That was really funny. Also, shout out whatever. It wasn't as bad as I thought, but the Fletcher King match was supposed to be sponsored by the big sponsor that was all over the show tonight. So they listed it as, I was trying not to give away free stuff.
Oh, my bad.
Well, if we did it, let me put up. Oh, I might be able to find it. Forget it. They're listed as like the Minecraft presents a movie of block guys you really like presents. Like it was like this whole ridiculous thing they listed the match as. So
that's fun.
Shout out the Reddit mods. Yeah. So where was I? Yes. Subscribe, like Monday Night Raw, SmackDown. Maybe we'll try, and then we'll be back here again for Dynamite. Next week we'll be here for Dynasty in a couple of weeks, and then we'll be around for WrestleMania as much as we possibly can, because certain people are not going, and then certain people have Mets games on Saturday, and so on and so forth.
That's wild.
I didn't cover Saturday last year either. For those of you who want to follow us on social media to help not only enter yourself into the Speedball Mike Bailey autograph giveaway, but just to hear what we have to say when we're not talking into a microphone, you can check us out on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Blue Sky. Links are all in the description below here on YouTube. If you're not here on YouTube, you're watching us over on Twitter or on Facebook, and you want to check us out, you can check us out on Twitter is @marketdown_pod. Instagram is @marketdownpod. YouTube.com/marketdown3665. Blue Sky is marketdownpod.bsky.social. Or, as we always say, you can just search Marketdown Podcast on any of those sites, and our stuff will come up. James, you got anything before we get out of here?
I will see you guys in the Gym Pack Zone tomorrow.
All right. So for James Ashanti, my name is Nick Cummings. Thank you so much for watching us here at the Market Down Podcast. Have a good one, everyone. Let's go, Duke.